Hello, I would like to discuss looking for music conferences as well as professional organizations in music. So, one of the important things is that we build our resume or our CV. And especially if we want to be active in academia, if we want to get a job in academia, we need to go to lots of conferences, present our research at conferences, or perform at conferences. Um, and of course, we also need to be active in professional organizations, and most professional organizations also host conferences. But generally speaking, I just did a Google search here on forthcoming conferences in music. So the first one that comes up here is Golden Pages, and I already opened it in a separate tab here, Golden Pages for Musicologists. I visit that a lot. So those are forthcoming conferences, and they are not just of musicological nature. There are any kind of music research that is being listed here. Of course, if you wanted to send a proposal in, probably then it can't be a conference that's very soon. So you have to scroll down a little bit, find a conference that takes place either later this year or possibly next year. And then I will just enter one of those. Let me see what looks interesting to me. Here, music and resistance. I believe that call has already passed the deadline. That was there's always a call for proposal deadline. In this case, it has passed, so we have to scroll down a little more. Now, there's not too much into 2021, especially right now with the pandemic. A lot of the conferences are either postponed or they're trying to wait to see what happens. But anyways, you can read about the conference, and then there might be a call for papers. This one is until November 2020, so you could still submit a proposal for that. Anyways, another one that I found is here, music technology conference list. So if you're in music technology, there is an all conference alert.com website where you can choose the topic. So we can choose music, and then it lists lots of conferences starting right now. Of course, many of the conferences are listed several times, and some of the conferences, or many of the conferences, are humanities in general, to which music belongs. And so they may not be too music specific, and in fact, you have to reload more and more to actually get here to the next month or to the later in the year. But it might be worth looking through of what kind of conferences take place, and so what might be out there. Let's see what else I found. Here is a website that lists music conferences. So if we scroll further down, there are quite a few. In 2021, Cinema and Art Conference, Art and Art Theory Conference, Performing Arts, Dance and Rhythm Conference. Anyways, lots of conferences out there, and if you like traveling, then look for interesting locations. Anyway, so one thing, it's good to get active in attending conferences to build your network with other scholars, but also to present your research, so you can list each conference presentation in your CV. There are also some conferences that publish books after the conference takes place, books with all the conference papers or some selected conference papers. So then you would also get a publication out of it. But I want to talk a little bit about professional organizations. So I pulled up a few. One of my most favorite is the College Music Society, because here not only music scholars but performing musicians, music educators, composers, they all come together and are a member of the College Music Society. It's one of the largest music organizations in the United States. And they also publish a uh, it's not listed here under publications, under services probably, a music vacancy list. Where do I find this now? Um, Maybe it is listed here further down here, music vacancy list. And those they send them out weekly, and they basically list all the vacancies there are in music in academia, so at colleges and universities, mostly in the United States, but some overseas as well. Um, so the College Music Society, they host an international conference once every 4 years, but it's very expensive to participate, so I could never actually do this. They do host the annual national conferences, and their call for proposals are usually due in January, sometimes December. So for this year, the deadline has already passed, but there are regional conferences. And so the College Music Society has many regional chapters. This is just a list of the forthcoming conferences, and not all the chapters have announced their conferences yet. But if we here go to About and click on regional chapters, we will actually, or we will not, we cannot click on it. We can click on individual chapters. So the one for our region is the South Central chapter. uh, I'm very familiar with this chapter. I was president of this chapter twice. And it entails Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. And so there will be a forthcoming conference in March 2021. In this time it's Oklahoma. So we just had one in Arkansas. Next year will be in Oklahoma. The year after that in Texas, and so on. It always rotates in that order. So every March there's a regional conference, and the call for proposal usually comes out in the summer, and proposals are due in September. And yeah, one can submit a composition or a performance, or a lecture recital, or a paper, or a poster, or a lightning talk, a very brief talk of some brilliant idea. So there are many different formats. Of course, there is the Society for Music Theory, societymusictheory.org. I had forgotten to mention the College Music Society website, so music.org, just music.org. For music theorists, Society for Music Theory, societymusictheory.org. They host national conferences, and there are also regions. And so, in fact, if I open a new tab, Texas Music Theory is it's not technically a chapter, it's an organization by itself, but it is kind of affiliated with a National Society for Music Theory. The Texas Society for Music Theory usually hosts a conference in February, every February. So musicology, there's the American Musicological Society, and they also have national conferences and regional conferences. And the one for our region is the Southwest chapter of the American Musicological Society. The conferences for this chapter are actually twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring. This fall will be an online conference, and it's probably no, it's not listed here yet, but there will be a call for proposals soon. It will be an online conference for this fall 2020, and hopefully an in-person conference again from spring 2021 on. Um, there is, let's see, Society for American Music, specializes in research on American music. Um, if you're a choral conductor, there is ACDA, of course. Uh, Band directors have their organization. Um, so search for your specific subdiscipline and what organizations exist. And the benefits of being a member is that you usually get the publications uh, from that organization as a student. You get membership that's very low. I mean, it costs very little to become a member as a student. Once you're not a student anymore, you may want to be very selective on in how many organizations you're a member. But it might be good to check it out. So you get the publications of the organizations, but you can also participate in their conferences. And if you only want to choose one, my recommendation is the College Music Society. Um, so, anyways, those are great ways to uh, boost your CV by starting to attend conferences, proposing papers, posters, lightning talks, lecture recitals, whatever you can do to those conferences. And the regional conferences are the most inexpensive one in terms of travel, because you can usually drive and just have to stay 1 or 2 nights. So it may just cost you a couple $100 or $300-400, whereby the national conferences usually you have to pay maybe $1,000 or sometimes more to fly there and to stay in an expensive hotel. Anyways, look for organizations that are applicable to you, and also conferences that go in the direction of your research or performance slash composition interest, and make a list of them and start contacting them, write proposals, become members. So have fun.